Hi there, and welcome to Heard Online, a series of episodes where we try to understand and make sense of all the things that we hear online. In today's episode, we're going to look at two studies actually that were recommended for us to look at from Mario, and we're going to take a particular look at cardiovascular outcomes and sleep duration because we often hear that if you don't sleep enough, you may have some problems with your health, including cardiovascular health. So we're going to take a look at that in today's episode, hopefully clarify a lot of things for Mario and the rest of the community. But before we do, I want to say a big thank you to our latest sleep hero, Matthew Merck, who just became our patron earlier today. So appreciate it. Thank you so very much for making all we do possible. And if you want to become a patron, there's a link in our description. Again, thanks so much, Matthew. It means the world, truly. All right. So with that said, I'm gonna read to you an email that just came in. I think it was 3 days ago. And it's also from Mario, who suggested the latest Heard Online episode as well. And Mario says, "Hi Daniel, came across these two different studies which seem to contradict each other. One says oversleeping is bad for your health, and sleeping under 6 hours showed a 9% increased risk of cardiovascular disease or death, but said that the difference was not statistically significant." What do they mean by statistically significant? We're going to answer that in a second. Then the other study shows that oversleeping is also bad, but sleeping less than 7 hours each night also had problems falling asleep and waking up feeling full of beans. I don't understand how these studies just comply random numbers, and each time there's a different story. You could read 10 different studies on sleep, and each one will say something different. Which one of these studies would you say is more accurate? I have linked them below. So we're going to take a look at which one of these studies that I find more accurate. And we're going to start with, the first thing that, the first one that Mario found, and that is this one. So this is what Mario found and what caught his attention. And this is from advisory board. I don't know exactly what it is. It's from December of 2018. It said, and the title is, do you sleep more than 8 hours a night? That could be a warning sign. Fairly triggering title there. And what they're saying is getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep is ideal for your health, but sleeping more than that could put you at higher risk for cardiovascular disease or death, according to a study published Wednesday in the European Heart Journal. And we're going to actually take a look at this very study in itself. But I want to share with you that this study that we're going to take a look at, in my humble opinion, is actually a very high quality study. And it is one that I referenced in my little book, Why We Don't Sleep. And why I referenced that, I'm going to share with you in a second. But before that, let's take a look together at the very article from the European Heart Journal that this website that we just looked at was referring to. So here it is. So this is the European Heart Journal, and the title of the actual study is Association of Estimated Sleep Duration and Naps with Mortality and Cardiovascular Events, a study of 116,632 people from 21 countries. And just from the title, you can see that this is how you write a title. It's very objective. This is not triggering at all. This is just very objective, and it's a big study, more than 100,000 people included from 21 countries. And basically, what they did, we're not going to spend so much time here. Actually, I'm just going to tell you what they did was that they did a survey where they basically asked people, how much do you think you sleep? Do you nap? And some other questions. And then they followed them over about 7 years, and they saw how many people did have a cardiovascular event, like a heart attack, stroke, or something like that, and how many people died during this time frame. And then they could see if that was associated, if there was a link between how much people estimated sleeping and how much they napped, and those events, right? So what did they find? Well, they found the following. After adjustment for demographic characters like age and things like that, a J-shaped association was observed. So compared with sleeping 6 to 8 hours per day, that's actually not sleeping, that's estimating. So we should say compared with people that estimated sleeping 6 to 8 hours a day, once or twice, by the way, because they did, this was a cross-sectional survey. So they asked people once or maybe twice during a 7-year period. So it's really just a snapshot. So we should actually say, compared with those who 1 or 2 times estimated sleeping about 6 to 8 hours per day, those who slept less than 6 hours a day had a non-significant trend for increased risk of composite outcome. And the key word here is non-significant, which means that they actually did not see that people who slept less than 6 hours had an increased risk for death or any cardiovascular event. That is the highlight here, right? And then people who slept more than 8 hours, particularly when it get closer to like 10 hours per night, those who estimated sleeping like that, they did have that increased risk of a cardiovascular event. So the question here becomes, like Maria said, what does statistically significant even mean? Well, basically, by consensus, most of the time that means that the link that was seen had a less than, by it was a 95% chance that that was not random. Okay, so if you would study anything, let's say you look at your neighborhood and who has a dog. Let's say 10 people have a dog, and 5 of those are below the age of 50. Then was that statistically significant? Probably not, because this is such a small sample. But basically, when something uh, is less, the chance that those two random things are linked is less than 5%, we call it statistically significant. That's just by kind of consensus. But to me, the highlight and the reason I put this study in my book was that it showed that this large study showed no link between short sleep and cardiovascular outcome. So I think this was a very high quality study, and I think the results are really, 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 really reassuring for anyone who's had trouble sleeping. And now, and the follow-up question can often be like, okay, what about those people who said they slept more than 8 hours or so? Like, why would that happen? Well, we can actually go back to this original report in the advisory board and look at comments from 2 researchers. One is Julie Ward from the British Heart Foundation, who was not involved in the study. And she said, even though the findings are very interesting, they do not prove cause and effect. So even though people who estimated sleeping 9 or 10 hours did have a higher risk, it doesn't show that one thing led to another. And Francesco Capuccio, who has authored a very, very nice study that kind of in the similar realm here. By the way, that Capuccio study is also in here. Anyway, Professor Capuccio said, it's not that long sleep causes death or ill health, but rather that poor health often causes an increase in sleep. And there you have it. Like all these studies, where people show that, oh, a little sleep or long sleep is linked to this and that, to me, really can be explained by this. It's not that long sleep causes any issues. It's that when we have health issues, it often makes us tired and sleepy and we sleep more, or health issues can affect our sleep. So we have trouble sleeping, and therefore this link appeared. It's not that short sleep or long sleep causes any issues. So that's, I think, was really, really well said by Professor Capuccio. And so I think now we have looked at kind of the first thing Mario was concerned about. And now let's take a look at the second thing. And the second thing, or the second thing online, the second online thing that Mario found was something that had a very similar title. It said the following. This is from Medical News Today. It says more than 8 hours of sleep, more than 8 hours sleep each night is bad for you, which also kind of triggering and very non-specific, right? And it says, according to researchers, da 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 da. But then, there's no link to any like actual studies. So I did some digging, and what actually happens to be the case here is that this wasn't designed as an actual like research study. This was a poll from the National Sleep Foundation from 2001. And what they do, the National Sleep Foundation, I think they've stopped this, but they used to every year call like about 1,000 Americans at kind of a representation of like the entire population and ask questions about sleep. So this was just a poll, right? But after the poll, somebody did take a look at the data and actually published a study on this. And so I thought we could take a look at that and see like what is all this about. So let's see. Here it is. So basically what they did was that they asked like 5 questions. They asked people to rate if they had difficulty falling asleep, if they wake up a lot at night, if they had trouble falling back asleep, if they woke up feeling unrefreshed, if they had problems with sleepiness, and also like how often they had this. And they also asked people to report their how much they slept, and this is what I really wanted to show you. So let's take a look together at that, because that really, there's just this one graph where we can see like everything that I think is helpful to take a look at. And here it is. So what are we looking at here? Well, we're seeing, let's see, we're seeing on this axis the percentage of reported sleep problems, and on the other axis here, hours of total sleep time. That means how much people, like an estimated sleeping. And these shapes mean different things. So the square, black square here is like difficulty falling asleep. The little triangle is like waking up too early. And this one is daytime sleepiness, etc. Right? So basically, what we see as people who are asked like, how much do you sleep and do you have any of these issues? Well, surprisingly, or maybe I should say not very surprisingly, people who said I sleep 8 hours also said I don't have very much problems falling asleep, staying asleep, etc. Right? And then basically those who said, well, I sleep about 4 hours, they had really a lot of problem falling asleep, staying asleep, etc. And similarly, people who reported sleeping 9 hours or 10 hours also had more of these problems. And here we see the same thing that we saw on Heard Online last week, which is basically that is all subjective. It's all subjective. It's just like, how do you feel about your sleep? How much do you estimate sleeping? And, I'm not surprised at all when I hear that people who thought they slept 8 hours also reported the fewest, struggles with sleep. And what I think is happening is that people who have no trouble sleeping, they're like, how much do you sleep? Oh, 8 hours. That's the right answer, and that's normal, and that's what I should say. They go like, I sleep 8 hours. I have no problems. I sleep 8 hours. But in reality, it's subjective. We know that. We know that people that have no trouble sleeping overestimate how much they sleep. We know how people have trouble sleeping underestimate how to sleep, etc. And again, there's absolutely no question in my mind that it's not that sleeping 8 hours makes you have less trouble sleeping. It's rather than that if you have struggles to sleep, then you often estimate sleeping more or less. Like you can have, or it can be completely unrelated, right? Somebody who's feeling depressed, for example, they may sleep 8 hours and also feel like sleep is not refreshing and they struggle with sleep, etc. And if we have insomnia, then we estimate sleeping less and we have more struggle. So again, going back to Mario's original question here, I would say definitely that the first study we looked at, that's a high quality study that showed no relationship between short sleep and cardiovascular outcome or death. And the second study wasn't really a study; it was a poll that only showed that people who had little struggle with sleep thought they slept about 8 hours. That's all. That's all we can see. So I hope this was helpful to you, Mario, and everybody else, and I hope it created a little bit more clarity in this often confusing space that is online sleep reports about sleep, etc. So as always, let me know what you thought, and if you would like some more clarity on your path to sleeping well forever, then I hope you find it here in the free content. But as always, if you'd like a little bit more help and support on your way to where you want to be, head over to our website, thesleepcoachschool.com, and check out our coaching options. We would love a chance to help you arrive where you want to be. That said, thanks again for tuning in. Extra thanks to Michael again, and look forward to having everyone back tomorrow. That's when we have open class at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Bye for now.